Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on building native agriculture. We appreciate your time being here with us today. And today we're going to be talking about regional food models and opportunities. If you have any questions, we'll have some time allotted towards the end of this webinar to submit those via our live stream on our social media, or you can submit them via our Zoom webinar function here as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Chris Roper.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody today. It's hopefully we're almost to spring. I know we're seeing a lot of 70 and 80 degree temperatures, unless you're with Dave Carter in Colorado where they're getting snow. So, you know, we see some green grass coming in a lot of areas, and that usually means good things are coming. So today we have a very important webinar. We're kind of wrapping up some of our series here on regional food models, various opportunities. We do have Dave Carter that's joined us today to talk about some market updates. A lot of volatility in the market right now. It's very important as we talk about food security. There's been some new initiatives that were even announced yesterday on nutrition security. So some different terminology that a lot of us can relate to. And with a lot of the uneasiness and unrest in our environments and economies today, food security should be one of our number one priorities. We've been talking about it for several years. COVID obviously brought to light many gaps and deficiencies that we have in a lot of our tribal communities. And we're trying to help share information, educate, and show opportunity to a lot of the tribal communities out there with different things that you can do, different things that you want to do. We've had a lot of emails, questions, comments in our chats about opportunities all across the United States. So we know that people are doing wonderful things, from adding greenhouses to their portfolio to adding meat processing. A big one, as we discussed last month, was food storage and logistics, and how we get food transferred from one area to another. Having that storage capability to be able to store food, it's so important. We're going to go through some of those topics that we've covered since last year, and then try to understand how that affects us moving forward. Dave's going to give us an update on some market changes and some things that he's seeing, and we're also going to talk about some new things coming up. There's a lot of funding opportunities that you need to know about, and we can share that information with you, and as well as answer your questions. So, as Whitney mentioned, please ask your questions. We always welcome your emails as well. I know we're doing a lot of things differently and trying to advance in our technology. You see a lot of changes moving across the nation with even some of the government opportunities that are coming out. So we're trying to reach as many people as we can. And again, if you have any recommendations or topics you'd like us to hit and cover, please share those with us. Don't hold back. Let us have it. So next slide. When we first started, we started on strategic planning and feasibility. We really talked a lot about food sovereignty assessments. We really push this, especially as tribes or even communities are looking to do more for food security. One of the first things we recommend is to do this food sovereignty assessment and figure out what your people are lacking, what they're needing, what they already have. These can really bring to light a lot of issues that you may not be thinking about. You can take that information and input that into your feasibility studies, your business plans, and understand what things are going to cost, what it's going to take to develop these new opportunities. And then in episode 2, we talked about funding those opportunities, writing grants. And this is so important with all the different initiatives that are out today. If you all are participating and receive the email blasts that come out from the USDA agencies, you can see that every day there's a new opportunity that comes out from one of the departments or another. So there's a lot of farm to school programs, farmers market promotion programs, lots of things with rural development. So please follow that grants.gov website and then reach out for assistance as needed. The next episode, we talked about standing up infrastructure, figuring out what infrastructure needs that you have, and depending on what type of facility that you're trying to build. We've talked about site selection and planning. Utilities are a big one. Thinking about the things that it takes to operate that facility every day, thinking about the amount of power, water, even internet. Broadband is a big subject that you all hear about, at least weekly now. Lots of different grant opportunities for broadband for these rural areas that don't have any internet capacity. But some of these facilities that are being built now, the equipment that it takes to run these require internet connection. You need to be able to manage that, diagnose problems when they happen, and of course, get assistance when you need it. So without that broadband and internet in place, it's going to really limit your ability to, make those facilities function as they need to. Next slide. In episode 4, we really talked on labor and training opportunities. Labor shortages are going on still today all over the country. We were talking about labor opportunities back in September of last year, trying to find labor, trying to find training resources, developing training opportunities. Again, you can catch all of these previous webinars on YouTube based off the Native American Ag Fund website. They'll send you a link directly off that. So please watch some of these and reach out for new ideas on finding labor and developing labor. Lots and lots of labor opportunities out there right now. In episode 5, we talked about HACCP plans, food safety plans, and the need to have these in place when you're handling food. When you're trying to feed your people, you've got to make sure that your employees are trained and you have protocols in place to make sure that you're doing it right. As well as if something does go wrong, you have to have a plan in place on what to do when that happens. So it's very important, not only from in a food inspection standpoint, but from food safety and understanding, how your tribe is going to handle food safety and what you're going to do in case of an emergency or in case of, various processing episodes that could happen. Episode 6, we talked about using tribal products in retail and vertical integration. A lot of tribes and a lot of communities are looking at this, and a lot of them are doing this in one way or another. The vertical integration and planning all help keep your food dollars inside of your community. It also can help with food security as long as you have the right food safety plans in place. Improving food security for your community and for your tribe members is what this is truly about. Feeding your people and taking care of your people. Next slide. Episode 7, we talked about how tribal foods tie into feeding programs. There's numerous ways, and depending on the capacity of your tribe and how many different services you offer, this is also opportunities for growth for you as well. A lot of the tribal communities have elder feeding programs, retail outlets, childcare facilities. Obviously finding different opportunities to feed your people is what we're trying to show you. Building the infrastructure, acquiring the labor, these are all challenges that we face every day. But if you have a good plan and you're able to work that plan, you can overcome some of the adversities that you can run into, just being prepared. Episode number 8, we talked about ag policy. This is, I call it prime time. We're in prime time for ag policy right now with the Farm Bill implementation and the Farm Bill webinars and information sessions. There's a lot of roundtable sessions going on right now. You can always link into the Native Farm Bill Coalition. That falls under the Indian Ag Council website. So please stay on top of that, participate. If you have information that you want to share or problems that you see, again, share that with the people that are working to make changes. We're looking at a new farm bill in 2023. So, it's going to take this year to make these recommendations and to get them implemented. So we can live with that for the next 5 years again. So you really want to share your information and participate in that to make some positive changes. Episode 9, I mentioned that earlier, the food distribution, storage, and logistics. It's extremely important. Had a call with a wonderful tribe in North Dakota yesterday. One of the first things you have to have is you have to have facilities, and you have to have places to store food. You have to have coolers, refrigeration. You've got to be able to have a truck that you can move food around in. So you can develop plans that can help you, start to enable your food security to get stronger. And again, we're here to help you. Native American Ag Fund's here to help you. IEC's here to help you. So please reach out if you ever have questions. We can definitely get you to the right people that can help you in your area. Next slide. And we do all of these things, and all the webinars that we've done to date are really preparing you to think more about the study done, the Reimagining Native Food Economies, and thinking about the regional food hub model. Global food security is a topic that has just grown exponentially since COVID hit. It showed us so many weaknesses that we have in our farming, our agriculture, our distribution. What to do when there's surplus food, what to do when there's no food. These regional food hubs can really help stabilize the food economy in every region. And, the report that was put out definitely starts out listing 10. And we all know that it's going to take more than that in the long run. But this is a start, and this can help stabilize the food systems in the communities that the native tribes are located in. There are a lot of tribes that are interested in these models. There are a lot of tribes that are doing their share to implement one thing at a time. Some of them are doing multiple things. So it's exciting to see the progress that has happened over the last 5 years, but it has really been put on fast forward the last 2 years with the various things that are happening in our economy, in the world, with the wars happening overseas, with COVID, the different spikes that you see. These are all things that seem to trigger food issues and food distribution issues. So even more of a reason for tribes to take control of their food security by building storage, building coolers and freezers, processing meat, growing vegetables. Start doing something. A lot of you are, and it's being recognized and acknowledged. So a lot of wonderful work going on. Next slide. Again, talking about the regional hubs, as we talk about that as a whole, we're thinking about processing facilities, and not only beef and bison, but we have to think about poultry as well. That's not something that seems to get focused on a lot in our native communities, but poultry is a big step as well in our protein sources. The warehouse and storage. I tell a lot of people the warehousing and storage is one of the easier things to do to help stabilize your economies and your food systems. Having storage available will allow you to have products available to feed your people when there's difficulty acquiring some of those products. Logistics and distribution. One of the things that always comes up is trucking. How do you get products from one tribal community to another? How do you get products, even into some of the remote tribal communities? Trucking is a necessary evil. You've heard a lot about it in the last year with trucking shortages, truck driver shortages, and that ties to the labor shortages as a whole. So once again, even more important for tribes to take control of their logistics. One of the big things that we keep hearing more about and keep promoting is tribal trade. there's a lot of tribal trade that's available, but the network to link tribes together still has yet to be developed. So we need leaders in this. We need leaders to take charge to develop these systems that can help implement the tribal trade better. And I know from my experience in my travels that there are tribes that will trade fish for red meat. There are tribes that'll trade produce. There are tribes that are interested in tribal trade and want that link to happen. So if you have products and you're looking for other products, again, please reach out. We'll try to link you with other tribes that are interested in trading for your products. So reach out and share what you have. We always appreciate hearing from you. Another thing is the technology and data infrastructure. I mentioned that earlier about the internet, but you have to have reliable internet in your communities to be able to support all of these functions. So again, that's a stepping stone. If you don't have internet now, we need to be working on getting internet to your locations. Another one is finance and credit services for native producers. This is something we haven't hit on yet a lot, but as we develop our final report here for this series, we're going to continue to dive into the finance and credit services. Just know that there are a lot of private funding sources out there to finance agricultural projects. There are also the government grants that we talk about each month. So we're going to try to outline more of those and dive into the finance and credit more for you. And then as we jump into our next webinar here this summer, we'll hope to be able to share more on that with you. Dave, did you have a comment there on that one?
No, sorry. I thought I was muted. I was just clearing my throat.
You're all right. You're all right. Next slide. The regional food hub models, again, this is kind of recapping everything I've talked about. But these regional models will be a central point, again, a hub for distributing food to tribal communities. And again, we know folks that are in the Northwest will need different resources than folks in the Southeast or in the Northeast. So each trade area and trade zone will have to be treated a little bit differently. We try to think of, all of you across the region, and we know that there will need to be some sub-hubs put in place. But again, we need those champions that are willing to operate and run these facilities. So, there are a lot of tribes in each one of these regions that are doing wonderful things. So we're looking for that first model. So, but we're going to need all the things that we've listed, from processing through storage and distribution. Next slide. That gets me to the wonderful Dave Carter. Dave has shared some webinars with you all in the past through Native American Ag Fund. I've been honored to work with Dave on various projects across the nation. He and I work together today on some projects. He is devoted to agriculture, bison, marketing. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of feasibility studies for tribes across the nation. Executive director of the National Bison Association currently, and currently working with tribal organizations and Native American Ag Fund to assess the feasibility for tribally owned marketing and processing enterprises. And I can assure you, Dave is doing this work every day, and Dave is accessible as I am. You can always send Dave an email or a phone call, and we're here to help each and every one of you when needed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Carter for a little bit to talk about some marketing.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. And yeah, I just want to echo, from my standpoint, it's really been an honor to work with Chris over the last few years to share the passion that we both have for building new food economies and working with tribal communities and others to do that. In addition to what you see up there on the screen, my background includes working in some product development and marketing, everything from a farmer-owned bakery cooperative to organic products to pet food. And so that's what we want to talk about a little bit is, as we take a look at this regional model, regional food hubs, not only the opportunity to increase tribal food security, but to take tribally produced products into the larger marketplace. And in order to do that, we have to understand what the market looks like. So go ahead and next slide here. So when you think about it, and Chris has talked about this, all of the disruption and the chaos that has happened. I always like to say that COVID, I use the Wizard of Oz analogy. COVID ripped back the curtain and exposed the myth of the resiliency and the strength of sort of the consolidated industrialized food system, and really got people thinking about, where their food comes from. And as we see now with the war in Ukraine and elsewhere, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. And I think when people start to see uncertainty with things that they can't control, they start to look for things that they can control. What can I take control of in my own life? Right now, more and more people are saying through diet and health, I can control how well and how long I live. Through the way I eat, I can control maybe how long the earth is going to be healthy and sustainable. And so this is a really, really big opportunity for tribal food initiatives. And when you think about this, even the surveys within tribal communities, people recognize that better food, more locally produced food, is better for them, for their families, and for the environment. Next slide. So, just when we think about this right now with the disruption of COVID and Ukraine and everything else, there's been so much volatility in the marketplace. I know the cattle market has seesawed back and forth, and even what we're seeing with gas prices, with the price of oil that went up, so rapidly and now has fallen by 23-25%. And so when we think about how do we stabilize that, a more locally regional food economy, the regional food hubs can really help us bring some stability, because you're not paying to haul products, from where the cattle are raised 1,000 miles away to where they can be fattened, to 800 miles away to where they're processed to come back to your own local grocery store. And so the things that Chris just talked about, being able to store food reserves and to have those transportation systems are really important, as well as the infrastructure that we know that, the last year's feasibility of what it was going to take to stand up a greenhouse or a meat processing plant is pretty out of date right now. And we need to be on top of what those infrastructure costs are. Go ahead, next slide, please. So there's some reports that have come out just within the last few weeks that talk about what has happened even over the last year. And one of the things, as Chris mentioned, I'm involved in the bison business, not only with the Bison Association, but my wife and I are partners in a bison herd here locally. And one of the things when you take a look is that some of the smaller proteins are growing, and some of that occurred because during the pandemic 2 years ago, when people went into the grocery store and everything that they were used to buying was cleared off the shelf, and what was left was some bison, maybe some ground lamb, and Impossible Burger. And they were taking a look and they were saying, maybe I'll try that bison, maybe I'll try that lamb. And they tried it and they discovered it was pretty darn tasty. And so what we've seen is through all of this, we've actually introduced some people to some of these proteins that they weren't used to eating, and they've stayed around because they like the way they're produced and how they taste. One of the things we're also seeing as a long-term trend, and particularly as inflation continues and there's issues with the restaurants, with labor, is people are cutting back on going out to eat. There's less restaurant dining, but what they're doing is they're looking at recreating those restaurant meals at home. They're downloading these P.F. Chang recipes or whatever from the internet and trying to recreate that at home. And that's a real opportunity when we take a look at specialized ingredients, indigenous ingredients, to be able to introduce those to folks, to recreate those restaurant experiences they experiment with food products at home. Go ahead, next slide. So as we see that, as I mentioned before, more and more people are basing a lot of their purchase decisions on the issues of, they really call this the intersection of four issues. It's their personal health, it's the health of the planet, and particularly when it comes to proteins, animal welfare. How are those animals treated when they were under our stewardship? And social responsibility. Are the companies producing the food taking care of their workers? Are they taking care of their local community? Are they giving back? Are they being responsible in terms of packaging and processing? All of those are key factors. And one of the things that the surveys are showing is that transparency is critical, is letting people know exactly how that food was raised, how it was processed, and how it was delivered to their grocery stores. And particularly when we're taking a look at, competing against the plant-based proteins or the alt meat, is to be very honest with people about how that was produced. And when we think about tribal communities and tribal food products, boy, that's something that's got a huge halo over it when it talks about reinforcing that perception that the public has of indigenous cultures of being good stewards of the animals, being good stewards of the earth. This is a way for us to capitalize on that. And then the other thing that is a real opportunity is internet shopping has exploded. The younger generations, the Generation Z, the millennials, they've been ordering these meal kits for a long time. But when the pandemic hit and things happened, folks that are in my age bracket learned how to get online and to buy their groceries online, maybe even just to go to pick them up at the grocery store. But more people are using online internet delivery services. And again, when we think about the regional food hub, what an opportunity we have to create something so that if somebody in Oklahoma City clicks on something online, it might be coming from the Osage Nation. If they're up in Billings, Montana, and they click for online delivery, it might be coming from the Blackfeet Nation. Same type of products, but locally produced and locally delivered. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we recognize is as we develop these projects, we have to understand what the market looks like and who are the players out there, what are the products, and how do we position ourselves. And NAF has made a major commitment to provide the resources that can help individual grantees get some of that intelligence, some of that data, some of that analysis that they need to have. One of the things that I've been working with NAF on is we've been putting a regional market update on the NAF website with the latest information about new developments that are in the marketplace and taking a look at some specific categories. Last quarter, we looked at the coffee category because there's a number of tribes that are moving into the marketplace of roasting and marketing coffee. We've looked at some with jerky and snack sticks and pet food. So we'll take a look at those quarterly trends. But we also have a market basket report that is updated on a quarterly basis. And it goes through some of the major products that are out there, everything from pancake mixes to pet food. And you can actually go on there and see then how has the price changed? How have the demand for those products increased? That's all available on the NAF website. And then the other thing is that NAF has got a major partnership with SPINS IRI, which is one of the major data mining services that tracks the sales and the velocity, the growth, the contraction of individual brands in the marketplace. And so there's key attributes that we can look at when we go into that SPINS data, which is available for all NAF grantees. Go ahead, next slide. So here's an example. We're just going to run through a few examples of some of the information that's available. And this slide's a little blurry, but if you go into a category, you can say, gosh, I want to go in and see jerky. What's happening in the jerky category? And what it'll do is in those various categories, it'll give you the total number of sales over the last 12 weeks, 26 weeks, 52 weeks, year to date, whatever you want to track in the overall sales, but also in the natural channel, in the conventional channel, and even within convenience stores. And then you can click on each one of those areas and you can see who are the leaders, who are the top brands, who's dominating that category. In that second group of boxes, you can see, are the sales, the dollars increasing over the last period that you tracked, or are they contracting? What's happening to that overall category? And then the bottom set there is the percentage of growth or contraction within that category. Next slide. So then you can go in and you can take an individual brand and you can start to take a look at that brand within the area that Spins captures. And you can say, gosh, what is their sales? You know, this might be year to date, or that might be the last 52 weeks. What's their growth? What's their 2-year growth over the average category volume? You can see they're in 73% of the natural stores. They're in 67% of the conventional stores. They're in 41% of the convenience stores. And then you can see those bar charts there kind of show you what are the brand attributes. Are they organic? Are they grass-fed? Are they all natural, non-GMO? And so you can take a look at individual brands and see what's either making them grow or what's not contributing to their growth. Next slide. Let's see, this looks like the same one. There we go. And then what's really interesting is if you go into a category, I think this is snacks, you can kind of see what's moving in that category. You got chips, you got jerky, you got other salty snacks, you got all of those things, and it'll let you know how that marketplace is developed and then what's happening within the individual ones. Next slide. And then you can go through individual brands. You can see exactly where they are. We can break it down within specific markets, into the West, into the Northeast, the Southeast. We can even talk about individual markets like Denver and Phoenix or Spokane, and what's happening, what are these brands doing in those markets. Next slide. So when we take a look at it, they track, I said they track the natural channel. These are some of the major retailers that they track in the natural channel. Go ahead, next slide. With the conventional channel, they're tracking everything from Walmart and Sam's Clubs to Albertsons and Kroger. And then on the next slide is in the convenience channel. 7-Eleven, Circle K. And I just saw someone pop up on the chat saying, hey, how can we access this? What we can do is we can set up a time because it's really kind of confusing to go in there and try and navigate this yourself. But we can set up a time if a grantee wants to go in and do some of this. I'm available to set up some time with you, and we can set up a Zoom and go online, and you start to tell what are the things we want to track, and we'll build that information individually for you and your project. Next slide. So with that, just as I said, this is something NAF has made a major commitment in this resource. And as you're building out a project and you want to get some of this market intelligence, yeah, please send an email. We'll set up a time to do some one-on-one consultation. Chris, I'm going to turn it back to you now to talk about some of the funding opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Dave. All great information. And again, I saw a few questions and comments pop up in the chat. We'll get back to those here very soon. But any information you're looking for, please reach out to us. We'll try to connect you with the right people to get answers. We also want to link people together that have particular needs or looking for certain products. One thing that, I'm not sure if the participants are aware of, but, the tribal communities are processing so many different types of foods. It's truly amazing. And if you're looking for any type of product or looking to trade for products, I feel like it's available to you. There's tribes with greenhouses, tribes that have canning facilities. Obviously, there's fishing tribes, meat processing plants, wonderful products with grapes and wines, olive oils, even nuts, wild rice. So the opportunities are endless. And I saw some chat comments about transportation. We would love to connect you and work with you to try to look at transportation opportunities. Again, I know tribes are looking to do trade with other tribes, and we want to be able to build that network and link tribes together so that we're not relying on these major retailers all the time for all of our grocery products. So
Chris, if I can add on that, because that's really
absolutely,
yeah, really important. And you think about the opportunities so much. We talked about the internet and people wanting to recreate the restaurant meals. There's a huge growth in people buying these, prepackaged meals. And if you think about the opportunity that we have to put together a package that would go out to somebody that would be, Native American bison with wild rice and cranberries, from that, all indigenous ingredients, that I think would have a really powerful marketing appeal to a lot of consumers out there.
I agree. And, the Indian Ag Council does have information available on tribal foods, on their tribal foods program and website page. So, you can always look at that website to find tribal producers and how they're linked through the tribal foods programs. But again, we can help link you together as well. There's so many wonderful things happening, again, from storage to growing, processing foods. It's truly amazing some of the things that have happened over the last 5 years, and again, in particular, the last 2. But to start diving in on these funding opportunities, one of the biggest ones out there probably right now is the Meat and Poultry Processing Expansion Program. We're really passionate about this program. The grants are due April 11th, though. That's going to come up on us pretty quick. The grants are going to help eligible processors expand capacity. That's what they're geared for. These grants are intended to make the most impact and increase capacity as fast as possible. So they want to see the growth and really an immediate response. There will be technical assistance and outreach available through USDA. Please follow the websites. Look at this website, usda.gov/meat. And there will be an announcement coming out next week on the technical assistance program. So you will be able to get technical assistance with this program. And don't let the April 11th deadline scare you too much, because there will be another opportunity coming out this summer for the next round. This first round has approximately 150 million in this round that's going to go out. The grant does only cover 20% of your total project cost, though. We know that this has been an issue for some of the smaller processors and some of the smaller projects that we've looked at. We're not sure what the requirements are and the assistance will be on the next round yet, but we hope to hear more in the next coming weeks. Next slide, please. Again, some more info. Some of the things that this grant can be used for is building a new facility or modernizing and expanding existing facilities, developing, installing, or modernizing equipment technology, ensuring compliance with packaging and labeling requirements, upholding occupational and other safety requirements, modifying facilities, equipment to protect food safety, paying for voluntary grading services on value-added processed products, offsetting costs associated with becoming an inspected facility, supporting workforce recruitment, training, and retention. And obviously that's a big one. So, but just know that this grant's being administered through rural development, technical assistance being offered through Ag Marketing Service. And this is a fairly complex grant, so you need to get started on this if you are chasing this grant. So there's a Huge opportunity here, but it will take some work to make this happen. Next slide. The next one is one we listed last month as well. Rural Innovation Stronger Economy Grant. This grant closes on April 19th. You can build or support a business incubator facility, provide worker training to assist in the creation of new jobs, train the existing workforce with skills for higher paying jobs, develop a base of skilled workers and improve their opportunities to obtain high wage jobs in new existing local industries. And again, these words come right off of the RFA. So again, please pay attention to grants.gov for all of these opportunities. Next slide. Value added producer grant. This has been a big one. There were some webinars earlier this week about this grant. This is one that can be paired with the MPPEP grant as well, if you are applying for some of that, or you can use this as a planning grant. Kind of going into the feasibility studies, developing business plans, marketing, advertising expenses, processing costs. The planning grant goes up to $75,000 and then working grant $250,000. So again, note match required. Always pay attention to that, and then pay attention to if these are cash matches or in-kind matches. If you're not used to the grant terminology, those are very important. This grant closes on April 25th. Next slide.
Real quick, for all these grants and the matches and things like that, if you have some specific questions about that type of thing, we did a whole webinar early on in the series that was all about how to write a grant. We did it. We talked on how to develop the budget and how to look at those matches and figure out how that can fit in and things like that. So don't be too scared of the matches. You can go back and review that webinar for more information.
Yeah. And sometimes one grant can be a match for the other, but it has to be allowed. Sometimes it's stipulated that that's not allowed. So you just have to read the fine print, make sure you know what you're looking for. Next opportunity here is the USDA Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. Funds can be used to purchase, construct, or improve essential communities. Local food systems such as community gardens, food pantries, community kitchens, food banks, food hubs, or greenhouses. And this does not have a closing date. This one just runs until the funding is gone. So you can also look at grants and low interest direct loans. There are several opportunities for low interest loans as well. You can not only look at this program, but also look at Farm Service Agency on their website for specific loan programs. And this rural funding and community facilities program is open to rural areas with less than 20,000 residents. And there's different criteria and different levels of percentages they pay based on the rural population they're in. Next slide. Partnership for climate smart commodities. A couple of things going on with this one. This one's been advertised for a little while and it just got extended. The first funding pool is due 5-6. It's limited to large scale pilot projects from 5 million to 100 million. These projects should emphasize the greenhouse gas benefits of climate smart commodity production benefits to a representative cross-section of production agriculture, including small and or historically underserved producers. The second pool, the larger pool, that's actually the smaller pool, due 610, is limited to innovative pilot projects from 250,000 to just under 5 million. And these projects should place an emphasis on enrollment of small and or underserved producers and are monitoring, reporting, and verification activities developed at minority serving institutions. And the next line there, breaking news here today, we should have a drum roll or something, but the 2022 NAF grants are going to open April 1st. So please take note of that, April 1. And with that being said, some of you might be sad, but we're going to be taking a break on our webinars. This will be our last webinar. We're going to take a 2-month break on our webinars so that we can all focus on these NAF grants and all of the open opportunities that are out here today. So take this opportunity to use the information that we've been sharing with you If you need more information, please reach out. The NAF grants will open April 1, and then we will be working on our report to summarize all of the things that we've been talking about with you all since last year with the webinar series, and again, dive into the finance a little bit more. And then we will come back in June. We'll have another either webinar or live stream, maybe both. We'll see how all this works out, but we'll have another event in June to do a recap on our report and make this report available to you all. Next slide, please. And contacts during this downtime specifically. If you're not seeing us on one of these webinars, you're always able to go back and look at our historical webinars. They're posted on the Native American Ag Fund website. There's links to all of those available. Some of Dave's previous marketing webinars are available there as well. And again, our emails and phone numbers are here available. These are our cell numbers. So we occasionally get people that reach out, have a project you want to talk about, have questions. And sometimes if you just need a link up with someone that you know is doing a similar project to you, we can try to help link you together with someone that may have already done what you're looking to do and maybe save you some headaches along the way. So with that, I want to open it up to questions. I saw several things pop up in the chat, but Whitney or Gabrielle, do we have some questions we need to field?
I think we can probably go ahead and answer some of these maybe in the chat here first. So we did have one question. Just as a reminder, we're getting a lot about how to access some of these recordings in our email that we will send to as a follow-up to all attendees of this webinar. We will include a link to every single past webinar as well. So you'll have those right there for your reference, and that'll come within 24 hours. And then one other question is the MPPEP opportunity the one where seafood processing is in the second phase?
I can answer that one real quick, and yes, the first one is geared specifically toward meat, and I believe, Dave, isn't catfish allowed in this first one as well?
Yes, it is. The way the catfish is classified, it's allowed in the first round. Yep.
Gotcha. So, but yes, you are correct on the second phase for seafood processing.
Great, thank you. And Gabby, do we have any other questions that coming through our live stream?
No, we don't.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully I'll make a few more comments about the chat. I see some great chats, good feedback today, and we love it when you all are here with us participating and asking good questions. Hopefully you got your question answered about the NAF grant. The RFA will be out April 1. Again, reach out to Dave on the spins information. Dave Carter can specifically help you navigate through this. The comment from about CDL and trucking and logistics. This is wonderful. I know when I've been a part of trying to help set up some training schools for CDL drivers and trucking, and it can be hard. And it's a great field. And there's a big need for that nationwide. So again, we want to be able to help link folks together that are interested in these logistics to tie tribal communities together and get food from one community to the next. And hopefully you can see, as we've worked all through last year on these webinars and trying to get you information to help build these regional food hubs, your food security projects. We all need to invest in our food sovereignty and security. As you can see from even USDA announcements yesterday on nutrition security, very similar. We all have to take control of our food nutrition. And Dave mentioned it, but this is one of the great things that we have control of today. We may not be able to control the interest rates, the war in Ukraine, the COVID spikes, or the fuel prices, but you can control your food supply, your food security, you have a direct impact on what you do for your family, for your tribe, for your community, and of course, regionally. As you grow and continue to do more, you can share that. And then again, even trade. You can trade your products for other products that you can use. So, and again, this is kind of getting back to basics of how our grandparents lived, gardening and growing and taking care of your own. It's truly our duty to take control of our food security and take care of our people. So if there are no more questions, I think that might be it.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And as I mentioned, we will be following up. If there is maybe a comment or a question that we may have missed, we will be sure to follow up with you directly following this webinar. But again, take a screenshot of this contact information. We'll include this link to the PowerPoint as well. So you can reference at a later time. But we appreciate everyone for joining us today, and we hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Yeah.